Hello, welcome to Reverie True Crime. I'm your host, Paige. Today's episode is going to be about recent crimes in the news. I decided to release this today to give you a feel for episodes I'll be putting out whenever I possibly can, along with your usual Monday episodes. Sometimes these episodes will be all crime, at other times all missing persons, as well as ones that will have a mix of both. When there are updates on the cases and missing persons discussed, I'll include those updates in upcoming episodes. I really want to bring more awareness to what's going on around us. There will be pictures posted to all the Reverie True Crime social media pages of victims, survivors, and the missing. Right up top, I do want to apologize for any names that are mispronounced. I did look on YouTube to see if these cases had any media coverage, and unfortunately, some of them did not. These are all from local news articles and other sources online, which is another important reason to shed light on these stories. The sources for these news stories are in the episode description. Without further ado, let's get into it. On March 18th in San Antonio, Texas, 19-year-old Sebastian Segovia was causing a huge scene at a Dollar Tree store on Fredericksburg Road. The manager called the police, shutting down the store early, asking officers to guard the store in case Sebastian happened to come back. A short time later, he indeed did go back with a rock, launching it at the officers who were there. When the authorities went up to him, Sebastian threw a rock about the size of a baseball and it hit a police officer's car. Luckily, no one was injured during all of this madness. However, Sebastian was not going down easily. He fled on foot while police briefly chased him. When they finally caught up to the teenager, he was charged for criminal mischief and evading arrest, but what happened next was truly shocking. Sebastian was taken in for questioning about what happened at the Dollar Tree, but he also requested to speak to homicide detectives. He ended up confessing that only a few weeks ago, he killed a man by stabbing him to death with a lock blade knife on February 23rd. The same knife was in the waistband of his pants when he was taken into custody. During the early morning hours on the 23rd of February, somewhere between 5 and 6 a.m., Sebastian said he was walking around a Northwest Side apartment complex. He spotted a man sitting outside of the leasing office by himself, and he went up to him. 37-year-old Robert Charles Hurley was approached from behind by Sebastian as he unleashed an unexpected rage, stabbing Robert in the neck 3 times. Afterwards, he pushed Robert into the bushes nearby, where he passed away. Before Sebastian took off, he went through Robert's pants pockets, finding and stealing his wallet. He told authorities exactly what was in Robert's wallet in detail, saying he burned all the contents inside later in the day on Babcock Road in a ditch. For hours, Sebastian stayed around creeks not far away until he thought it would be safe to leave. He even told the police Robert's name and his birth date because he had memorized it from Robert's ID. Police had been looking for the person who murdered Robert Hurley and Crime Stoppers were offering up to $5,000 to anyone who had information about the gruesome crime. Outside of the Sorrento apartments, San Antonio police discovered Robert in a pool of blood with many stab wounds around 6:30 in the evening on the day he was killed. According to Bexar County court records, Sebastian Segovia was charged with murder and his bond is set at $750,000. Around 4 o'clock in the afternoon on March 18th, police officers were called to the residence of a Murfreesboro, Tennessee couple's home in the 4700 block of Swanson Drive in West Murfreesboro for a, quote, unknown problem. When police arrived, they walked up to the garage, discovering 68-year-old Fatsifone Cesarino, who had endured fatal trauma to her body and multiple stab wounds. Her husband, 80-year-old Folcom Cesarino, took off before police arrived and has been accused of her murder. He was soon arrested during a traffic stop. Neighbors of the couple told Fox 17 Nashville that they were baffled and confused about this horrendous murder in their quiet neighborhood. Tyler Dunn, who lived next door to the Cesarinos for a few years, said, quote, "It's the last thing we expected. There were no signs to make anyone on the outside think anything like that would ever happen." Authorities reported that the investigation is still ongoing. In Jackson, Mississippi on March 18th, Deputy Chief Tyrone Buckley stated police were called to a shooting around 6:30 in the evening on Rainey Road. When they arrived, there was a gray vehicle with a deceased 49-year-old male inside who had been shot multiple times. Police began to search for a man and woman who witnesses described to them. A few hours later, 41-year-old Ebonique Lashunte Stiff and 59-year-old Dwayne Ruffin were taken into custody just before midnight on the 18th for the man's murder. At this time, the man who died has not been identified. Anyone with information about this crime, please call Crime Stoppers at 601-355-8477 or the Jackson Police Department at 601-960-1234. On Monday, March 16th, 16-year-old Daisha Casley, who was a junior at Gavitt High School in Hammond, Indiana, was with one of her friends at the Holland Inn and Suites Hotel in South Holland, a suburb of Chicago, Illinois. Daisha and her friend got into a fight that began around 6:15 on the morning of the 16th. The person who Daisha thought was her friend, 21-year-old Kenesha Lang, shot and killed her. Kenesha has been charged with first-degree murder. Daisha's family is in utter shock, especially since they knew Kenesha. On Saturday the 18th, Daisha's family went back to the crime scene. A child with decades of life ahead of her and so many things she was supposed to experience was ripped away from her in the blink of an eye. Now, the family is left with questions and unbearable grief. Daisha's cousin, Ariana, said, quote, It's very scary because we would never think in a million years that anything like this would ever happen to her. Daisha's mother said she wanted answers and to find out what really took place that Monday morning. Regina said that as a mother, her heart was broken and she believes her daughter's life was taken because she had such a big heart. Regina said, quote, "Her life was taken in such a short early notice. She probably didn't think nothing of it. Her, just being a person, always helping and giving, she didn't think her life was going to be taken just like that. She worked. She was always a hard worker. She just loved her sisters and brothers and family, anyone that came around her. She just had the energy of love." Ariana said of Kanisha, quote, "She didn't even think when it came down to killing my cousin, taking her life. She didn't think about her future or the family she had. She didn't think about anything. She really hurt us." Daisha's aunt, Shannon Harris, said, quote, "That was my only niece, and that right there, that's something that I will never forget. That's going to stay with me forever. This really destroyed me, and I feel empty." Blindsided, in disbelief, dealing with pain that can't be described, and left behind with broken hearts are Daisha's mother, father, siblings, and countless family and friends who loved and cherished the teenager who had so much more life to live and lost her life so senselessly. The family is currently going through a very difficult time trying to plan Daisha's funeral. Kanisha Lang is at the Cook County Jail being held with no bond. Monday, March 6th in Virginia, 28-year-old Ivo Antinio was being transferred to a state mental facility from Henrico County Jail. He had been arrested after a concerned neighbor called a few days before the 6th explaining Ivo's strange behavior and possible stealing. Police arrested Ivo for burglary, and soon after, he was found in his cell nude, covered in feces. Dinwiddie County Commonwealth's attorney Ann Baskerville watched the surveillance footage from the jail and said that Ivo was obviously in distress and agitated after being pepper sprayed by 5 or 6 of the deputies when they went into the cell and tackled him to the floor, holding him down for several minutes. On March 3rd, when Ivo was initially arrested, his mother, Caroline, had to de-escalate the situation when police arrived. She and Ivo's family were all for the decision to take him to the hospital because he needed mental health care. Ivo was sent to a facility, but the doctor treating him there told Caroline that her son was going to be just fine. Ivo was then told while in custody he could not take his medication for his mental illness. He was then released from the hospital and transferred to the jail. Multiple times, his mother Caroline told the police about her son's mental illness and begged them to not be aggressive towards him. Between the 3rd and the 6th, Caroline tried to visit him, but the police refused to let her see her son. Ann Baskerville said of the jail video footage, she considered Ivo as not being assaultive or combative, but more in distress than anything else. However, police argue that he was being physically assaultive toward them. Attorney Mark Crudis said that it was a relatively small thing. Ivo was gathering lights from someone's yard. Mark said it was not done out of any type of wrongful intent and that Ivo was troubled. The day that Ivo had the mental breakdown in his jail cell, officers and members of the county's crisis intervention team put him under emergency custody. Police took Ivo to a facility for mental health where they killed him during the admission process at Central State Hospital. Ivo Antinio was originally from Kenya and came to America when he was 4 years old. He had a deep love for music. The 28-year-old constantly worked hard towards his dream of becoming a hip-hop artist. Caroline said he had found his thing with music and was able to write a song in less than 5 minutes. She said he would put all of his energy into that and that he was happy. Caroline said her son had an enormous heart and his classmates would always run to him when they needed someone to talk to. She said he was a leader who always brought his own perspective to the table. Quote, if there was a discussion, he was not afraid to go the other way when everybody else was being a follower. His mother opened up about his mental health struggles, saying he had a mental illness that he was prescribed medication for. There were long periods of time where you'd never know anything was wrong with Ivo. At other times, she said he would go, quote, into some kind of distress and then you knew he needed to see a doctor. Ann Baskerville said in court on Wednesday the 15th, Ivo was handcuffed and had on leg irons while he was forcefully held on the ground by not 1, not 2, or 3, but 7 deputies and 3 hospital workers as they smothered him to death. Ivo's cause of death was asphyxiation. The murder was caught on video, which Ann said is extremely clear, and what happened was extremely alarming. The video captured the excruciating 12 long minutes of Ivo's last breaths as 7 deputies, 57-year-old Randy Joseph Boyer of Henrico, 37-year-old Dwayne Allen Bramble of Sandston, Jermaine LeVar Branch, 45 years old of Henrico, 43-year-old Bradley Thomas Diss of Henrico, 50-year-old Tabitha Renee LaVere of Henrico, 48-year-old Brandon Edwards Rogers of Henrico, and KL DeJour Sanders, 30 years old, of North Chesterfield, along with hospital employees Darian M. Blackwell, 23, of Petersburg, 34-year-old Wavy L. Jones of Chesterfield, and Cedarius D. Williams, 27 years old, of North Dinwiddie, used excessive force and smothered him to death. Attorney Ann Baskerville told the court the video shows deliberate and cruel treatment. There were hands over Ivo's mouth, on his head, and one of the officers were holding his braids back. Ann said the deputies were really putting their backs into it, leaning down on him. While handcuffed and in leg irons, the 7 deputies and 3 hospital staff members had him on the ground, covering him from his toes all the way up to the top of his head, eventually being rolled over onto his stomach, with all the deputies continuing the excessive physical pressure. Ivo passed away while he was in that position. The video is not going to be put out for the public to see, at least not as of now, since investigating is still being done. Ann also said it's to maintain the integrity of the criminal justice process. There was a 911 call made, but Ann believes Ivo had already died before the 911 call ever happened. Paramedics left, and the state police were not called until 7:28 p.m., which Ann stated the delay in contacting 911 was completely inexplicable. CNN retrieved the audio from the court hearings of all 7 deputies from the Dinwiddie Circuit Court clerk. Mark Crudis, the attorney for Ivo's family, said this tragedy was brutal in nature. He told CNN, quote, "The family is grief-stricken after learning of the brutal nature of Ivo's death and his inhumane treatment in the hours preceding his death. The public and experienced mental health professionals alike will be deeply disturbed when the facts of this case are fully made known." The prosecutor in the case provided Ivo's family with the 12-minute video. His mother, Caroline, said, quote, "My son was treated like a dog, worse than a dog. We have to do better." Ivo Antinio's family demands to know why and how a promising musician who was having a mental health crisis could possibly be treated in such a way and die as a result. Also, they want answers as to why no one came to his aid, no one said a word or did anything to help him and stop him from being killed. Ivo's elder brother, Leon, expressed that people should not be scared to call for help when their loved ones are experiencing a crisis, and it is his belief that the 10 people he saw on that 12-minute video did not care about another human's life. Quote, "What I saw was a lifeless human being without any representation." Leon said the whole family is broken. They're pleading for more awareness to be spread on how to treat people who suffer from mental illnesses. Leon posed the question, quote, "Can someone explain to me why my brother is not here right now?" Henrico County Sheriff Alyssa Gregory said that the Henrico County deputies turned themselves in, and as the investigation was ongoing, they were put on administrative leave, which means they are still being paid. Ann Baskerville said she's never seen anything like this before. On top of Ivo's murder and the deputies being on paid leave, the local enforcement officers union says they're standing behind the 7 officers releasing the following statement, quote, "Policing in America today is difficult, made even more so by the possibility of being criminally charged while performing their duty. The death of Mr. Otinio was tragic, and we express our condolences to his family. We also stand behind the 7 accused deputies now charged with murder by the Dinwiddie County Commonwealth's attorney, Ann Baskerville." One of the deputy's lawyers said he was looking forward to the full story being revealed in court. Randy Joseph Boyer, one of the deputies, his lawyer, Caleb Kirshner, told CNN that he had not seen the video yet. However, without even seeing the video, he said, quote, "Nothing was outside the ordinary in the process of taking Ivo to the mental health facility." Caleb said Ivo was determined not to get out of the vehicle at Central State Hospital, and the deputies had to use force to get him out. He said hospital staff gave Ivo a sedative before his death when he was refusing to cooperate. Ann Baskerville argues that the shot was given to Ivo after he had died. Attorney Caleb said Deputy Randy Boyer was only holding Ivo's leg to make sure, quote, what we estimate to be a 350-pound man who was having a severe mental health episode was not let loose in a medical facility where he could severely injure other people. From my review of the case, nothing was outside the ordinary or outside the scope of their training for what they did. Deputy Brandon Diss's attorney, Peter Baruch, released a statement, quote, Deputy Diss has had a 20-year career with the Sheriff's Department and has served honorably. He is looking forward to his opportunity to try this case and for the full truth to be shared in court and being vindicated. One lawyer who was not named said he is shocked that the video has not been released and he believes, quote, they are overcharging the deputies in this case. Attorneys for the Otinio family members all say that Ivo was not a threat to the police officers, saying he showed no aggression or violence. Ben Crump, a civil rights attorney, is working with the family and said, quote, you see in the video he is restrained with handcuffs. He has leg irons on, and you see in the majority of the video that he seems to be in between lifelessness and unconsciousness, but yet you see him being restrained so brutally with a knee on his neck. Ben Crump went on to say that the video is a commentary on how inhumane law enforcement officials treat people who are having a mental health crisis as criminals rather than treating them as people who are in need of help. Referring to all the deaths that have occurred and we've all witnessed due to police brutality, quote, why would anybody not have enough common sense to say, we've seen this movie before? Attorney Mark Crudis stated, quote, his mother was basically crying out for help for her son in a mental health situation. Instead, he was thrust into the criminal justice system and aggressively treated, and treated poorly at the jail. When you see that video, you're just going to ask yourself, why? Ivo's mother, Caroline, said the video broke her heart. He was tortured, and added, quote, mental illness should not be your ticket to death. She also said, quote, Ivo is as American as apple pie. This is what he knows, referring to him coming to America at the age of 4. This was my baby. He cared for people. He cared that people were treated equally. I cannot be at his wedding. I'll never see a grandchild because someone refused to help him. No one stood up to stop what was going on. The 7 deputies and 3 Central State Hospital employees were charged with second-degree murder. All 10 of the accused will be in court Tuesday the 21st to appear in front of a grand jury. If the case does go to trial and any of those people are convicted, the prison sentence in Virginia for second-degree murder is a minimum of 5 years and at most 40 years. A 34-year-old man, Jorge Ivan Santos Camacho, who lives in Davidson County, North Carolina, had been messaging back and forth for months with a 13-year-old girl from Dallas, Texas. Jorge was manipulating and grooming her. He drove to her house at the end of February, sweet-talking her and giving her money to leave with him. Cameras nearby captured the 13-year-old being lured into a Davidson County vehicle registered to Jorge Camacho. He took her 1,000 miles away from her home and everything she knew to his home in Davidson County in the city of Lexington. The little girl was reported missing immediately, and the investigation began. After the video had been discovered, the Texas FBI Violent Crime Task Force got in contact with the Davidson County Sheriff's Department. Within 10 minutes of the call, authorities were watching Jorge's home. Investigators with the Davidson County Sheriff's Office had the help of agents from the FBI Greensboro Field Office. Investigators spotted Jorge leaving his residence on March 10th around 6 in the evening and quickly conducted a traffic stop, discovering the teenager was locked in a shed on the property. Sadly, not only was she kidnapped, but she had been raped. When she was found, she did not seem to have signs of external injuries, but she was swiftly taken to a hospital close by to be examined before she was taken back to Dallas, Texas. Jorge Camacho has been charged with child abduction, felonious restraint of a child, human trafficking, 2 counts of statutory rape of a child, 2 counts of statutory sex offense with a child, indecent liberties with a child, and more charges are pending. He was thrown in jail with his bond being $1,250,000. The investigation is still ongoing, and with the victim being a minor, I'm not sure how much more will be released about this case, but the sheriff of Davidson County said this was only the tip of the iceberg. He couldn't explain any more due to the ongoing investigation. I'll be keeping an eye out for updates on this case as well as the others. Also, in this episode's description, there is a YouTube link of the sheriff of Davidson County holding a press conference about what happened and the dangers of children on social media. Thank you so much for listening. In a few days, I am hoping to release the next episode, which will be about missing people. Of course, as I mentioned, all pictures will be on my social media, and I'll have numbers that you can call if you or someone you know has any information about any of these cases or missing people. I'm hoping these episodes reach someone who knows something about the unsolved and missing persons cases. Maybe they're hearing about these cases for the first time, and something will click when they hear the locations, or the dates, the names, or seeing pictures on social media. So please share these episodes with friends, family, and on social media. The more light we can shine on these families, victims, survivors, missing people, sharing their stories, and opening our eyes to what happens around us every single day is all very important. All of these cases today were out of the US, which was not intentional. I did notice it while going over the script. There will absolutely be international news stories to come. Until next time, please stay safe, take care of yourselves and one another. Love you guys.